Hello, Meoni here. Welcome back to another video. This time we're looking at the strategy board, a new feature added in patch 7.4. This feature is designed to be more than just a meme. It is designed under the party menu here to be a way of working out fights. So either on your own or with the use of the internet, basically sharing other people's strategies. Similar to the Raidplan system and many other systems before externally from the game, this is an attempt to bring it into the game so that people can work out strategies for various fights. In addition to that, it's also become a source of memes, of which I've saved a couple here that I've seen in the Party Finder, which are hilarious, but it's mostly designed so you can save up to 50 of these strategy boards and work things out. So the way this works then, if we go to new strategy, you can start blank, preset, or with a share code. We'll talk about that in a moment. If we start with a preset, if we look at the preset, then this is what that looks like. So we've got a field type, so we could change the type of field to checkered to a circular field. We've got a square field, and of course we've got just a grey background, grey circular field, square field as well. So depending on how busy you want it, if you want a checkerboard or the type of arena that you might be fighting on, because some bosses have circular arenas and square arenas, sometimes you might just want a basic strategy board like this that's kind of generic, that doesn't show you the outline of the area. You can also go on the enemy type and mess around with, if it's a large enemy, medium enemies, and small enemies, this is the preset for that. We can change all of that afterwards. And there's also the party positioning, so there's light party, a full party composition, so of 8 players, and then we also have second default there of composition 2, composition 3, so like there's a partners, and there's light party stacks, for example, in various different places. So let's just go for that as a preset. And then there's a preset for waymarks as well. The preset waymarks for spread are your cardinal positions, A, B, C, and D. Or of course you can get your intercardinals as well with 8 waymarks, which is spread 1. And then we've also got spread 2. So depending on if you want the 4 to be in the top left or not, depending on how you do it, because different regions have different positions. This is something I'm more used to, where it's like literally clockwise with the colors, like color coordination. But there are some people who prefer it to be the left of that as well, counterclockwise spreads. And we've also got the close ones as well, if we want them around the boss. Yeah. It's as basic as that. But of course, the limits to this system are our imagination, and that's just a preset. So if we set the preset, this is what it looks like. This is just a preset that we've set up. We can then click on any of these objects and move them around depending on where we want them. So if we wanted to make a specific fight, you should have the tools available to make that possible. You can also turn on grid lines and snap to grid as well. So if you want things to be in exactly the correct place, you totally can do, right? So that you're not having to deal with strange positions. They are going to be exactly where you wanted them to be. Additionally, we can add objects to this. So of course, we've got ourselves the class and job roles, as well as our individual pieces. So if you know that there's a dancer, for example, you can place that on there. You can also resize these as well and rotate them. If I remember correctly, there are different types of attacks, so you can put different positionals. And of course, the idea is that each one of these strategy boards is kind of like a slide, right? So you would save that, and then you would make another one, you'd copy paste it, and then you change it slightly. But there's everything here, including gaze mechanics, linear knockbacks, radial knockbacks, and they're all labeled accordingly, which is quite nice. I'm sure they'll update this in the future with even more types of area effect. There's also some icon and markers, so if you want to have specific markers of where people are going, or, you know, lock-on markers, purple lock-on markers, green lock-on, so if you're dealing with meteors, that kind of thing. There's also text as well. This is especially useful, so you can just drag the text object in and put, like, both. I don't know, that's not particularly helpful, but we do have the ability to put text on these. That was one of my concerns, is that we weren't going to be able to place text on this, because that's one of the things that you always see on a raid plan, but that is, you know, not the case. You can put anything you want there, as hilarious as you want. Obviously, different shapes and other objects as well, rotating clockwise. I don't know. yeah, just a bit of anything really. Line AoEs, yeah, all sorts of things. And then there's the field itself. So if you want to, you can create a platform within a platform. For example, though, we can also change the object layers. So for example, if that needs to actually be at the bottom, we can right click that and we can move that to the back immediately, which is pretty helpful. We can also rotate that. So if you've got an arena with multiple platforms, for example, you can also change those. So you can also change the parameters of each of those things as well. So if we change the circle, for example, we can change the parameters of that. We can change the size of that circle and also the transparency if you want to as well, which is quite helpful. There's a lot of features here to to make any fight in the game. Will people use it though? That is the question. So then, this is board.wtfdig.info, created here by Says Raya on Adamantoise. Of course, I'm not affiliated with this. I just thought it was really helpful. As you can see on here, someone has created the ability to convert Raidplan.io plans to share codes. So if we go to import here, and we were just to place in, I've got on my paste here, a Raidplan for M4S, and we press the import button. As you can see, it's converted that Raidplan into something that we could effectively import into Final Fantasy XIV on a strategy board. That's the usability of this system. Now, of course, there might be some inconsistencies, some textures that might not be loaded, things like that. But as you can see, if we just go on to, we could copy all the codes if we wanted to, but let's go to Electrifying Witch Hunt, for example. As you can see, the text is not perfectly on the screen. We can, of course, edit that if we wanted to, or we can just copy the code, and then we go to New Strategy, and then go to Share Code Strategy Board, and then we paste in the share code that gave us, and then we press Import. And as you can see, it says the strategy board UE2 uptime variant has been successfully loaded. Proceed and save, yes. And then we're just going to save that anywhere for a moment. And as you can see, this is Electrifying Witch Hunt straight into the game. If you want to edit out these text boxes, move these around, better format this stuff. So if you find somebody that's using a Raidplan during the progression, and you're like, I wish that was in the game, you can totally convert that and then just save that. If I wanted to share this with somebody, I could literally just right click on that or subcommand, and then I could press share, and then I could create a share code. If I was in a party with someone, I could share with the party or real-time share with them, which they would see on their screen, and we'd be able to talk it step by step. But if we create a share code, we can then copy that to the clipboard and then post that on the internet. It's not a particularly, aesthetic thing, but this is a good way of sharing codes. So anything that's on Raidplan can be converted to an in-game strategy board if you don't want to go through the process of actually using the in-game tools. But of course, there are lots of in-game tools that you can use to your advantage to share things. And of course, it works vice versa if you wanted to create an external version of a strategy as well. So let's invite my free trial account to a party. Free trial accounts also have access to the strategy board, not that probably there's many places that they would use it. If we go to the strategy board system and we go to our, Electrifying Witch Hunt or something like that, and we go and share this, you'll see that we've got Share with Party. If we press this button, that will show up on their screen as a pop-up. You can see, it's popped up, and then we've got the strategy board that they can then save themselves if they wish to. And it's just a simple case of saving that to their strategy boards as well. So you can see the ease of use of this. And then the other thing we can do if we wanted to is we could go and share and real-time share with the other person. And if we press this, this opens real-time sharing. Then the other player and other people in your party, if you're in an 8-man or whatever, will get this pop up. And instead of it just being shared with you, even though it is still the same, you can still save this, they can actually real-time edit this if they like. So for example, if you're struggling to work out a certain mechanic, this is not a very good example. If you click and drag any of the icons on the host who's actually sharing, as you can see on the other person's screen, that icon is moving, right? So effectively, this means that if someone's like, oh, I don't understand this mechanic, can you help me figure it out better? you could just go, right, so you're this person, you don't go here because you'll die, right, you need to go over here in a line. But yeah, effectively you can move any of this stuff in real time and it will show up on their screen. So yeah, I think it's especially useful just on a case that you can move these things around and show people, rather than just trying to explain something to them in words, or just here's a raid plan. You'll be able to go, right, you are the melee DPS, this is your position during this fight. You do not want to be here, you do not want to be there, you want to be here for this particular mechanic. In theory, then, this could be a game changer, especially in the pug scene, because not everyone's going to be wanting to use voice communications, especially on a platform like a PlayStation or an Xbox. So you can better explain this by talking to them via text and then telling them, you know, where to go and actually showing them at the same time, which I think is pretty revolutionary. It's one of the best features of this system that something like Raidplan outside of a game doesn't really have. Of course, if you are working outside of a game already, you're probably using Discord, and you could probably share screen and use other programs, other external tools to show things in real time. There are other ways of working out fights externally. The other good thing about the share feature, though, is if you have an entire folder of these things, even though there is a limit on how many, you know, boards can be inside a folder, if you go to share the entire folder rather than a board, with your party, they will get a pop-up, and that pop-up will be the entire strategy board folder rather than just the strategy board itself, instead of just one. So that's particularly useful if you want to show people things directly. So a little bit more of a complicated process then, just to show the limitations of this system. So as you can see, we've got Recollection Extreme, which is the raid plan, which we've converted. It's in the game here when we have the various steps. Of course, we've tried to move some of the text over here. So there is a bit of a limit in terms of how many things you can have on one strategy board at once, right? So that's one of the things that to bear in mind, especially when it comes to text. For example, if I wanted to add more text to this, because it's cut some of it off, I will not be able to. So there is a limit on the amount of text that you can have on screen at one time, as well as objects as well, right? So just bear that in mind. You have 50 objects that could be placed, but for some reason text is even more limited than that. But aside from that, the other limitation is each one of these folders, as you can see, can have 10 in total strategy boards. If there's any more than 10 steps, then you have to make a second folder, which is a little bit unfortunate. I would have liked to have seen this have more than 10 steps, or as many steps as you want in a folder. But unfortunately, that's another one of the limitations. So again, with your imports, you might be spending a little bit of time cleaning this up. But for the most part, you can see things. And as people make more strategies, as we come to more, you know, relevant new content, I'm sure people will create the raid plan with this in mind, or at least you would hope so. There's also a website called FFXIV strats.io. Where people are sharing these as well, including a handy meme section. So if your meme needs are not being met, you could find some that the community are uploading as well. So even if you don't plan to use this as a strategy board, I suppose you've got memes if you want them. But it's going to be especially useful if the community actually uses these. For example, this is the front page of that same website with the memes. Let's say we wanted to do the latest extreme, which is Dawntrail. There are lots of strategies for that as well. And as you can see, those are shared from a community and we can just import them into the game. So this does have some use. And I can imagine a lot of people will eventually make use of this. It's just going to be a little bit of a stepping stone, isn't it, really, of crossing over from what's traditionally external from the game. And hopefully it is easier to just share the stuff in the game, right? And, you know, tell people exactly what strategy you're doing and try to work things out. This then is a more relevant and updated version then that was shared. This is the Hector strat for the Dawntrail Extreme fight. So of course you've got different pages that you can quick refer to. So for orbs, for the static phase, and of course we have the add phase here as well, and then the clap as well. In addition to actually using it for the actual strategies, it might be a good idea to post something that you can have at the bottom right of your screen, especially like timelines during a fight, which I think is especially even more useful. Even if you don't want a reminder of what strats are, having this in the bottom of your screen is going to be particularly useful. when you're doing a fight. And of course, being able to switch between those so you can keep up with the timeline or just a reminder of certain mechanics. It just really works quite nicely, doesn't it? And that's the main use case scenario for this, instead of having to tab out or use sticky notes or having a second monitor. If none of those are things that you have or want to use, then having this in the bottom right of your screen, for example, of doing the fight and just referring to where you are in a fight is especially useful. The biggest thing I'd like to see changed in the future is trying to shorten some of these links, like the share codes. Because let's see, this one ends in 4 bracket, right? If we copy this to clipboard and then we go and create a party finder listing, if I'm trying to share what strategy I'm going to use, I just don't think, yeah, we can only share 2 lines. So it feels like a bit of a missed opportunity. So you're going to have to wait until you're in the party to be able to share with it. It would have been nice to have another box specifying exactly what strategy you're using. If you're going to have an in-game system to actually have share codes and things, it'd be cool if you could embed the share code into your party finder recruitment criteria listing. That way people can click on something, check that it's exactly the strat that they want to do before joining your party. That way you'd have less people joining a party and going, I don't know that strat, and then leaving. But at the same time, probably the easiest thing to do would be this, right? This particular Hell on Rails, it's the Hector strat, right? So that they've listed every single strat that they're using there. But it would be nice in the future if there was just a little button you could press and it would bring up the actual strategy board if they've set one up. So you could just have a quick preview. I think that would be a really good solution. But anyway, the strategy board system, definitely not perfect. But for what it is, even if it's just as a meme board, then yeah, it's pretty good. I'm certainly going to use it, especially since this time I'm not in a static. I'll probably end up running Party Finder, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway, much love, more videos on the way from patch 7.4, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.